police folk haven't strung together at all before we put this project together. They are a coalition of the willing, the available and the enthusiastic. And we've had a grand time doing it. Let me introduce you to Ned. Born in Rochdale, the son of a cobbler. He didn't have a very good start in life. His father died when he was just 9 years old. Left him and his sister and the mother in abject poverty. They were living in a cellar in the middle of town. And it must have been very tempting for his mother to send her two kids off into factories for work and for brass. But bless her, she didn't. She got him educated. She taught him herself, she sent him to Sunday school, she sent him to evening classes, and she apprenticed him to a printer, a man called Thomas Holden. And as the printer's errand boy, it put the young Ned in the company of literary men. And he became inspired by all these words on paper. He eventually became a printer himself. He worked as far away from home as London, but returned quite quickly to Rochdale and then to Manchester, where he settled, and he got himself a job as the Secretary of the Lancashire Public Schools Authority, which isn't what it sounds like today. It was a movement to provide education for the masses. And he didn't like the job because it involved going round scrounging money off rich folk and big companies and things like that. But it gave him the space and the time and the flexibility to write. And it was in 1856 that he wrote the poem that was going to make him famous and was going to change everybody's perception of what the Lancashire dialect could be in the right hands. That it wasn't just for comic songs and street ballads, it could be something else. It's why they called him the Lancashire Burns. And it is a very simple poem about a young wife who's got all her housework done, she's got the kids off to bed, but she can't settle them because they're crying. And she's crying too, because he's not there. But she knows where he is. He's down at the pub. And so against all the social protocols of the time, and it really was in the 1850s, she gets his hat and coat, and she goes down to the pub to appeal, it turns out successfully, to his better nature with her simple plea of "Come on to the children and me." And here to sing it for you is Alyson and Graham and the Edwin Waugh Tribute Choir. the booksellers started giving it away on postcards. They started printing it in all newspapers. They sang it on the streets and on markets. They read it out from pulpit. They sang it with choirs and orchestras and brass bands, and anybody who was anybody performing in Lancashire wanted that. It was the most popular parlour ballad that we had. That tune is one of half a dozen tunes that were composed for it in the couple of years after it was written. We know when he wrote it. We know exactly when he wrote it, because he wrote it on a page of a diary on Friday the 16th of June 1856 in the Clarence Hotel in Manchester. After it had been published in newspapers, there was a lady, the Baroness Burdett Coates, who'd seen it in newspapers and seen these little postcards. You know the flowery Victorian postcards with a flowery border and a poem in the middle of it? He had it printed onto them. And she'd ordered that 20,000 of these cards were printed and distributed throughout the city of Manchester. And with that, the works of Ned Waugh crossed that great Victorian class divide. And he began to produce his works both for the working man for whom it was originally written and for the gentry. And a couple of people in here tonight have already said to me, I've seen books of his on second-hand bookstalls and on out market and on sorts of in for sale pile in library and whatnot. Next time you see them, have a close look at them, and you can tell which market they've been written for. If they're big books, they're probably going into big houses. And if you look at his poems in big books, all Lancashire dialect words and phrases are translated at the bottom of each page so that they don't cause confusion or distress to the ladies. And when you find little pocket books, there's some little books knocking about. You get 30 songs for a tanner. Ned Waugh's Lancashire songs. And when you look at same poems in there, they're not translated because they're for us. They're not for you. I don't know what company I'm keeping here tonight. You're no idea. But what Ned did and what made him so massively popular is he didn't write about what his audience's lives were like. You won't find a lot of poetry about working in cotton mills. You won't find any poetry about what it's like being a coal miner or a quarryman, because people knew what that was like. He wrote about what the population of Lancashire had lost in the 1860s, 70s and 80s. He wrote about the people who were here before the Industrial Revolution arrived. He wrote about the moors before they became black with soot, and he wrote about rivers before they could become thick with sludge. And he wrote about the little streams before they became reservoirs to fill the towns that developed from little cottages. And he wrote about the people of Lancashire before they became mill hands and factory fodder. And his audiences went mad for it. And they followed him all over Lancashire and West Yorkshire. He would get 200, 300, 400 people turning up to hear him reading his poetry and stories. Listen to this. This is called Here's to My Native Land. Here's to my native land, and here's to the heavenly hills, where the little birds sing on the blooming boughs to the dancing moorland rills. And there is still a little cot, and it stumps me a spreading tree, where a kind old face has looked from the door, full many a time for me. He's on the slope of a flowery dell, and hard by a rippling brook, and oh, for a peep at that chimney top or a glent in yon chimney nook. And there is still a little church, where many an old friend lies, and fain were I sleep in my native ground, at last, when they close my eyes. When summer days were fine, the lads of the fold and I would rove the moors until the hardest moon has died in the morning sky. And everything's sweet in the leafy woods on a sunny summer's day. And I wish I was helping the rural lads to tumble their scented hay. Though many a pleasant mood in many a land I've seen, I've wandered back to my own green hills in the wide world lay between. They say that there's bluer skies across the foaming sea, but each man that is born has a land of his own, and this is the land for me. He did this stuff to flog his birds. Who wouldn't want to buy that poem? It's about you. It's your granny sitting outside that little cottage, watching you coming back from town. Who doesn't want it? You all want to buy it, don't you? But it weren't all romantic Victorians. He was very good at writing in Lancashire dialect. He was the prince of it. He was the man who set the standard. Before him there had been a few street ballads and a few comic songs of Joan Griffith going off to fight the French in Wellington's army and whatnot. But once Meg got out of it, it changed. And he wrote a lot of serious stuff, but he wrote a lot of daft stuff, and he wrote a lot of stuff that started lots of other people writing lots of other things. And I'm going to read you one of his tales because somebody's insisted that I read it. Didn't you? Yeah? And I'm going to read this little tale, and buried in the middle of it is a very familiar story. See if you can spot it. But first, I'm going to have a drink, a corporation pop. This is all I'm allowed. It's called The King of the Volunteer. One day, we were summoned up to London to a review, and we gave a bit of a glance at a different make of life all over there. Mind you, they were a lot of sweeperiest, star-slanted Christendom or Lancashire volunteers. They were fighting a lion apiece for a quarter of a hill. Well, King, he were very fond of us Lancashire chaps, and when we were on a loose end, he passed as much time as ever he could spare. Him and me keep turtle thick, and when he knocked off for a day, we parlored up and down London together in all necks and nooks and corners, and they were like as if he were never comfortable but when we were together. Well, time went on a bit. When us lads were upon parade, Sergeant come up to me and he says, "Out that gun slate." And I said, "I am out in it straight." And he said, "There aren't out in it straight." And I said, "The lies." I said, "I am out in it straight." And with that, he knocked gun right out of my hand. And then he says, "Pick that gun up." And I says, "No, I'll not pick it up. It's where the ass put it, and I'll have to pick it up myself." And he said, "Pick that gun up." And I said, "Put the guard ass." Well, I tell you, as I didn't care for neither guard nor him, and that set him agate, blethering and gustering up and down like that. And while he were again to his den, who should come up with mass but King himself? And when he see gun lying on floor, he said, "John, is that thy gun?" And I said, "Aye, it is, out lad." And then he said, "What's he doing on floor?" And I said, "That sergeant there's just knocked it out of me hand." And with that, he up with his foot, and he punched that sergeant up and down the yard, And if I'd have spoken half a word to out George just then, I could have been John Sergeant shot. But I didn't. I thought I'd see how he went on. That come out in a book published in about 1870. It was 1929 when Stanley Holloway wrote Sam. It can't possibly be a coincidence that he set lots of folk going into lots of different things. And he stimulated so many people to start writing Lancashire dialects that we probably wouldn't have Lancashire Neets as we know that him. But some of the stuff he did is more suited to chapels than alehouses and public halls. And this is one such song, entitled simply Bygone. And if you take all the words of these together, you can sing it anywhere you like on Sunday morning.
When my heart with its trouble sinks down, and the joys that misled it are gone, when the hopes that inspired it are flown, and it gropes in thick darkness alone, let faith be thy cheer, scorn the whispers of fear, be righteous and bravely thine own. Righteous and bravely
put my name into YouTube, and you get pictures of me performing various Edwin Waugh concerts. And there's a whole sequence of things that I did at Ilkley Literature Festival. And if you press the wrong button at the right time, you'll get me and Michael Portillo on Curtin Moor in Salford. And he's on his regular train journeys. And he's come to talk about Ned Waugh. And me and him are walking over Curtin Moor, talking about him. And I am accompanied on these with a string quartet. And the leader of that string quartet is Joy Hunter, who is also, you'll spot in a minute, the volunteer conductor of the Edwin Waugh Tribute Orchestra. And Joy and I have been here, there, and everywhere performing all these Ned Waugh songs, poems, and stories. I've put this whole concert together from museum archives, newspaper reports, tickets, programmes that I found of the various concerts that he did all over Lancashire. And so what we've got here, and what you're in the middle of enjoying, I trust, is a real, original Victorian Lancashire Neet. Are you ready, Dan? This is a little song entitled Tumrindle, about this couple sitting at home in their little cottage in the gathering gloom of a winter's evening and sick and fed up of staring at each other. And he says, I'll tell you what, lass, fill jug up, give us me hat and coat, and I'll go and invite everybody round for a bit of a marlock. A marlock. It's a bit of a do. Still with us as malarkey. Welcome to Lancashire. Somewhere in the law for chilly now, because winter song we're singing, he said, I'm tired of cowering here in smoke and wasting time with thinking. It frets me heart, it racks me blue, it sets me head a stewing. I'm on the spot the day a fool, man up and get a doing. So Molly makes me Sunday shoot, and on me bits of tools in, and on me joke on top of town, and let me poke me nose in. And Molly fills up again, and dirty looks at all in. There's no conflict of our like when me brains are getting awfully. I slayed the rook and every man's I frisky counts and burdens, on the legs and potch the bones and dance and leg cranks be houndens, and lads and lasses them and sing, fruity fleet and limber, and Robin the terrain, on his merry bit of timber. And Joan come and Joan and Ben and Power out in Elijah, and Molly and Sally and Fan and Nan and Carly, Petty, Bijah, and gentle Charlie is with here, and little Dick the Ringer, and Most and Sam I like to hear a snowy Geddy singer. As Poorly Rodney out as moon, I sent for Dolly Mabel, cos when her's readily done, little Lucas Grandis Queen of Sheba, and little Nell, her dance with me, our Nellie's young and bonny, and when not bed to dance with thee, I'll care her with me granny. So Molly filled it up again, and dirty looks at all play. There's no conflict of our like when the range are getting motley. We're young and hearty to the croak, let's risk it now or never. Also here's good health to country folk, and country fun forever. next poem is believed to be a gallery of Ned's family and friends. It's called Our Folk, and it's our favourite poem. And it's sort of our theme tune and the title track on our CD. Did I mention that? I know we haven't got any of them left. But I've made a new one about Victorian tales from Charlie, where I come from. And I've just, everybody has to do plugging their stuff, I might as well have a go. Got to wear my mirror, see what happens. There's 130 years ago, this December, a little book was printed in Preston called Cracks from a Cobbler's Suit. It became massively popular, and tales are all about Charlie and Exton, where I live. And so I've reprinted the book, and I've produced an audio CD, a double CD, of all the tales, so that you can sit there with a bottle of whatever you like best, and you can listen to me reading these tales out of this book to you. What could be nicer? In the original advert, on 29th of December 1887, in Lancashire Evening Post, it said, "Eura's tales in the Lancashire dialect, laugh and grow fat." Anyway, I can't vouch for that. But this is Our Folk, believed to be a gallery of his family and friends, and it shows his great love of the fiddle, that merry bit of timber, as he always called it. Our Johnny gives his mind to books. Our Alan studies plants. He cuts the jewel for moss and ferns and crewing polyants. For out about mechanicking, our Ned's the very lad. My Uncle Jamie roots in the stars. It's enough to drive him mad. Our Ally keeps a badger's shop and takes his Sunday school. Our Josie's very blind for a lad. Our Timothy's a fool. He's tried 3 different makes of trays and always missed his tip. But then his plattiest whistler has ever cocked a lip. Our Matty helps me mother, and who sews and tends our Joe, and doing sums and such as that, me favourites and all. Our Charlie, well, there can't be another bait like his, it's all crammed full with ancientries and Romaneness. Our Tommy's tend to preaching. I's a top at it too. But what's the use? Our Bill comes in and swears it's winna do, and so with one, at striving away on to 40 wicked men, while we've t'other making Marlocks as converts over again. Our Abel's youngst, and next to Joe, me mother likes him best. Her is in brass. A broody shirt to keep him nicely dressed. He's getting with quality. And when his clerking's done, he's always had a cricketing or shooting with a gun. But my Uncle Sam's a fiddler, and our fain could hear him play from set to sun until winter need have melted into day, because such glee, such tenderness with every changing part. It's his heart that stirs his fiddle, and his fiddle stirs his heart. And when he touches trembling string, it knows it out so well. It sounds as if an angel tried to tell what angels feel. And sometimes water in his ear full as meant to flow, exactly round to where for its blend with drops of woe. And so here's to John, and Ab, and Ned, and Matty, and our Joe, and me father, and me mother, and all t'other lads and all. I and thee too, our musician, I wish long life to thee. An honest place a fiddle wheel should never lost a day. Joy Hunter and the violin have to call her when she plays it like that. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Broadfield Park in Rochdale, where the Dialect Writers Memorial stands. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Go and have a look at it if you know. It was put up in 1900 by public subscriptions. The story goes that no single subscription was more than a tenner. And it's 20 foot high, polished granite. Anyway, I recorded a pitch for a Radio 4 programme which is going out in spring called The Tongue and the Talk. And they've taken the title of it from the inscription on that memorial. Because the inscription reads, "In grateful memory of writers of the Rochdale dialect who have preserved for our children in verse and prose that will not die the strengths and tenderness, the tragedy and humours of the folk of our day, in the tongue and the talk of the people." And we are those kids that were talking about 100 years ago. And we're going to finish this now with another one of Ned's songs, very aptly called "When the Sun Goes Down." The reason that me and Michael Portillo were at Kersallmoor is that he's buried in St Paul's churchyard, just next to Kersallmoor, because he loved the moorlands, so they brought him back from New Brighton where he died, and they buried him in St Paul's churchyard. When he died, 2,000 people came to his funeral. 2,000 people lined the streets of Salford for a cobbler's son from Rochdale. A remarkable achievement. Thanks for listening. Here is "When the Sun Goes Down."